You've probably noticed it, something's changing. The same women who once rolled their eyes at average men are suddenly anxious, confused, even panicking. Why? Because the validation they use to get effortlessly is gone. Men have stopped playing the game. They've stopped chasing, stopped apologizing for being men, and started prioritizing themselves. And for the first time in decades, women are realizing their power doesn't work on men who don't need them. What women think, they deserve endless attention. Constant validation, emotional labor on demand is colliding with what they're actually getting. Silence, indifference, and men walking away without explanation. That shift isn't just personal. It's cultural. It's a quiet revolution where men are rewriting the rules of engagement, refusing to play roles that no longer serve them. If you don't understand why this is happening and what it means for the future of relationships, you'll be left behind. Because right now, a new kind of man is emerging. He doesn't chase, he doesn't beg, and he doesn't crumble under pressure. And that's exactly why women are starting to panic. For decades, men were told their worth depended on what they could do for women. Buy the dinner, send the flowers, be the rock, the provider, the emotional punching bag. Society called it being a good man. But what it really meant was chase her, impress her, prove yourself, and maybe, if you're lucky, she'll choose you. That was the unspoken contract. Men pursued, women selected. But that contract is being torn apart. More and more men are waking up to a simple truth. The chase has no finish line. The more you give, the more is expected. The validation men once earned through sacrifice now barely registers. So men are walking away not in anger, but in clarity. They're choosing peace over drama, progress over pursuit, and purpose over approval. Think of it like a game of musical chairs. For years, women controlled the music, deciding who sat down, who got attention, who was worthy. But now, men are leaving the room entirely. The music keeps playing, but fewer men are listening. And suddenly, men are realizing they're performing for an audience that's no longer there. This shift is a threat to traditional relationship dynamics because it flips the power structure. When men stop chasing, the illusion of control collapses. Women who were once used to being the prize are now facing silence. And that silence is deafening. And here's the part most people won't say out loud. This new breed of man, the one who's focused, detached, and self-directed, is becoming rare and valuable. Women sense it. They feel it. They know the men who don't prioritize them are the ones they'll secretly crave the most. That's the new reality. The less you chase, the more you're desired. And the more men embrace that truth, the faster the old order falls apart. For years, women lived in a world where attention was their currency, and men paid without question. A text, a compliment, a date, even a glance across the room reinforced the idea that no matter what, men would always chase. It was normal, expected, guaranteed. But that guarantee has expired, and the silence that's replaced it is sending shockwaves through the modern dating world. Women are starting to feel it. That creeping sense of uncertainty that comes when their usual power doesn't work anymore. The Instagram posts that once got a flood of fire emojis. Now, nothing but a few pity likes. The old "I'm done with men" routine. It doesn't sting when men don't argue back or beg for another chance. Suddenly, women are realizing that validation isn't endless, and that realization is terrifying. It's like a performer stepping on stage, expecting applause, but finding an empty theater. What women thought was normal constant male attention and emotional access is vanishing. The spotlight is dimming, and they're scrambling to turn it back on. But the more they chase that validation, the more desperate it looks, and the more men pull away. You can see it in the way online conversations have changed. TikTok and Reddit are filled with women asking, "Why don't men care anymore?" Or "Where did all the good men go?" But the truth is, the men didn't disappear. They just stopped playing the game. They stopped being fuel for an ego that never got full. Underneath the panic is something deeper, a loss of control. When men stop reacting, women lose their ability to manipulate through emotion, withdrawal, or attention-seeking. And that loss of control feels like rejection on a primal level. It shakes their confidence, their identity, their sense of worth. The irony. The very men they once dismissed are the ones they now can't stop thinking about. Because in a world built on validation, indifference is the ultimate power move. And that's what women are truly panicking about. Not losing men, but losing control over how men see them. For generations, women were raised on a steady diet of reassurance, stories, songs, and social conditioning that told them no matter what they did, a man would always care. He'd chase her when she pulled away, fight for her love, improve his devotion even when she made him jump through emotional hoops. Every romantic comedy, every pop song, every social media post reinforced the same fantasy, that her worth was measured by how much effort a man was willing to invest. But that story doesn't work anymore because men have stopped playing their part. The perfect man they were promised, the one who bends, pleads, and adjusts his entire life to meet her emotional needs, is disappearing. In his place stands a new kind of man, independent, detached, and entirely self-sufficient. He doesn't seek validation from women, and that's exactly why women don't know how to deal with him. They've spent years mastering how to get attention from men who crave it, the nice guys, the simping types who would do anything to stay in their orbit. But when they meet a man who's unaffected by beauty, unshaken by rejection, and unwilling to beg for connection, it throws their entire strategy into chaos. Suddenly, the tools that used to work, flirting, withholding affection, playing hard to get, fail completely, and the panic sets in. You can see it in the confusion. A woman texts a man something passive-aggressive, expecting him to chase. He doesn't reply. She posts a subtle dig online, expecting jealousy. He doesn't notice. She hints at moving on, expecting desperation. He says, "Do what you want." And that indifference burns deeper than any insult ever could. Because for the first time, it's not in control of the narrative. Society never prepared women for this, for men who choose themselves. From a young age, they were taught to expect emotional labor from men, to believe that their happiness was a man's mission. But this new generation of men has flipped the script. They've realized their time, energy, peace are valuable currencies, and they're no longer spending them where they don't yield respect. And here's the irony. The very thing women claim to want, a confident, grounded man who doesn't need validation, is the very thing that unsettles them most. Because when a man doesn't care, he's untouchable. He can't be manipulated, guilt-tripped, or swayed. He becomes the one thing modern dating promised women they'd always control: unavailable. That's the reality now. They thought they had all the power, but they're discovering something different. The men who don't care are the ones rewriting the rules, and the women who can't adapt are the ones being left behind. For the last decade, social media has been the stage where women built their image of power. The filters, the poses, the soft girl aesthetic, all of it crafted to project perfection. Every post was a silent declaration: I'm desired, I'm admired, I'm winning. It wasn't just self-expression, it was strategy. Each selfie, each relationship goals caption, each cryptic quote after a breakup reinforced. It's a narrative that women were in control. But behind the filters lies a truth most won't admit. The audience is changing. The same men who once fueled that online validation machine are now scrolling right past it. The likes are dropping, the comments are thinning, and the attention that once felt endless is evaporating. What women show the world's effortless confidence and abundance contrasts sharply with what's really happening behind the scenes: anxiety, competition, and quiet desperation. Social media once allowed women to script reality. They could craft the illusion of choice, hundreds of men in their DMs, constant validation, endless options. But men have started seeing through the facade. They've realized that behind the glamorous captions are filters, loneliness, and insecurity disguised as empowerment. They're recognizing that attention doesn't equal value. And that's a revelation many women never saw coming. You can sense the panic online. Videos titled, "Where Did All the Good Men Go?" rack up millions of views. Influencers who once bragged about being unbothered now post tearful monologues about toxic men who ghost them. The script has flipped. The performance isn't working anymore because the audience men has woken up. And that's the part that stings most. The illusion of control is fading. For years, women leveraged beauty, attention, and emotion as tools of power. But now, men aren't reacting the same way. They're unplugging from the show. They're no longer impressed by the highlight reels or moved by the victim narratives. When the validation stops, the mask slips. And behind the perfectly curated feed lies a hard truth. Social media taught women to chase attention, but it never taught them how to hold a man's respect. There's a moment every man faces. The point where he realizes staying costs more than leaving. For years, men were conditioned to fight for relationships no matter what, to prove their loyalty even when it drained their peace. But today, something powerful is happening. Men are walking away, quietly, confidently, and without apology. And that single act of indifference has become the ultimate power move in modern relationships. When a man walks away, he's not giving up. He's taking back control. He's choosing self-respect over manipulation, silence over chaos, and growth over guilt. Think about the man who finally stopped arguing with a woman who twisted every word, or the husband who stopped chasing affection that was being withheld as punishment, or the boyfriend who stopped explaining himself to someone determined to misunderstand him. The second they walked away, they stopped being victims of the story and became the authors of their own. Women aren't used to this kind of strength. They've been taught that men will always come back, always compromise, always cave when faced with tears, guilt, or silence. But now, when a man shrugs, says, "I'm done," and actually means it, that's something they don't know how to process. Because you can't control a man who isn't afraid to lose you. This is the new definition of power, not dominance, not aggression, but detachment, the ability to walk away from anything that threatens your peace. And ironically, it's that very detachment that makes these men more attractive. Because confidence isn't built by holding on, it's built by letting go without fear. The men who embrace this mindset aren't bitter. They're focused. They're done negotiating with disrespect, done seeking approval, done apologizing for standards. And women can sense it. The panic you see today isn't about losing men in general. It's about losing these men, the ones who know their worth and refuse to settle for less. That's real freedom, not in controlling others, but in mastering yourself. The man who can walk away from anything that doesn't serve him, that's the man every woman wishes she could keep, but no longer can. Ask most women what they want in a man, and you'll hear the same list: confident, assertive, emotionally strong, ambitious, and independent. But when they actually meet that man, the one who doesn't seek validation, doesn't bend, and doesn't let emotion dictate his actions, something strange happens. Attraction turns into discomfort. Admiration turns into defensiveness. Because deep down, what women claim to want and what they can emotionally handle are often two very different things. Women love the idea of strength until it challenges their sense of control. They'll say, "I want a man who leads," but when he actually leads, they test him. They'll say, "I want honesty," but when he gives it without sugarcoating, they call it harsh. They'll say, "I want a confident man," but when that confidence means he won't chase or tolerate disrespect, they panic. Because true strength doesn't orbit their emotions, and that's unsettling. It's like giving someone a wild horse after they've only ever ridden ponies. They love the power, but they can't handle the ride. The independent man, the one who's calm, unbothered, and purpose-driven, exposes something they'd rather keep hidden: their dependency on control. When they can't predict him, they can't manipulate him. When they can't move him emotionally, they lose leverage. And that's when the tests begin. Subtle arguments, emotional traps, withdrawal. Anything to reassert dominance. But the man who truly understands this doesn't flinch. He doesn't argue. He doesn't chase. He simply holds his frame. And ironically, that's when desire intensifies. Because while women may resist masculine strength on the surface, it's that same strength that creates the deep emotional polarity they crave. Here's the paradox. Women want a man who's unshakable, but they also want to feel like they can shake him. They want security and excitement, stability and challenge, love and dominance all in one. Most won't admit this conflict, even to themselves. But men who see it for what it is gain an edge. They stop playing emotional chess and start living by their own rules. Because once you understand what women really want, their confusion stops being your problem and your confidence becomes their obsession. When men start setting boundaries, the ripple effect is immediate and explosive. Society isn't used to men saying no. For decades, men were told that sacrifice equals love, that endurance equals strength, that boundaries are selfish. But the moment a man refuses to tolerate disrespect, manipulation, or emotional games, the world labels him cold, toxic, or emotionally unavailable. Yet, ironically, it's that refusal that defines genuine self-respect. Women, too, struggle with this shift. They're used to men who give endlessly, who absorb blame, who fight to earn forgiveness. But when a man calmly says, "I'm not dealing with this," and walks away, it creates shockwaves. Female friends might tell her he's scared of commitment. Social media will call him insecure or controlling. But deep down, she knows what really happened. She pushed, he drew a line, and she lost control. This new wave of men setting boundaries is shattering the old dynamic. Because boundaries don't just protect men, they expose truth. They reveal who actually respects you and who only valued your compliance. And for women conditioned to expect unlimited emotional access, that revelation stings. Take the man who stops tolerating last-minute cancellations, silent treatments, or emotional ultimatums. Suddenly, the relationship dynamic shifts. The power games fail, and she has to face herself, not him. And that's where the panic comes from. Boundaries force accountability, and accountability kills manipulation. Society will try to guilt men into backing down. Real men don't walk away, but modern men are learning that real men protect their peace. They don't chase validation from those who drain them. The truth is simple. When men set boundaries, women lose leverage and culture loses control. But what men gain in return is priceless: respect, clarity, and freedom. And that's a trade every man should be willing to make. The old blueprint for relationships is fading fast. Men were once told to follow rules, chase, provide, appease, and sacrifice endlessly. The promise was stability and love, but the reality was exhaustion, resentment, and fading self-worth. The new era is different. Men who lead take themselves seriously first, and everything else falls into place. Leading isn't about domination or control. It's about clarity, purpose, and boundaries. It's about knowing your value and refusing to settle for less. Men who embrace this mindset stop chasing approval from women or society. They stop negotiating with manipulation. They stop sacrificing peace for temporary affection. And in doing so, they unlock something women can't manufacture: respect earned naturally, not demanded. Imagine relationships where men lead this way. Couples communicate with honesty, not games. Emotional labor is shared, not one-sided. Men pursue goals and passions with confidence. And women follow not because they must, but because they genuinely admire the autonomy and stability they bring. The attraction is stronger, the partnership healthier, and the connection far more fulfilling. The long-term benefits extend beyond romance. Men who take control of their emotional and social lives experience true freedom. The freedom to choose who they spend time with, where they invest energy, and how they define happiness. Self-worth is no longer dictated by likes, texts, or fleeting attention. Instead, it grows from internal standards and the courage to uphold them. This is a challenge to every man watching. The future isn't for those who follow the rules. It's for those who write them. Don't let outdated scripts dictate your life. Lead with confidence, protect your boundaries, and refuse to compromise your peace. The men who step into this mindset will not only redefine relationships, but also reclaim their identity, power, and emotional sovereignty, because the new era rewards men who are unapologetically themselves and punishes those who continue to play by someone else's rules. The question is simple: will you lead or will you follow? The truth is clear. Men who take themselves seriously, set boundaries, and refuse to play by outdated rules are shifting the balance of modern relationships. Women are panicking, not because men are cruel, but because they're finally claiming their autonomy. This isn't just about dating. It's about self-respect, freedom, and creating a life on your terms. Don't fall back into old patterns of chasing validation or compromising your peace. Stand firm, lead your life, and embrace your power. If this resonates, subscribe, share your thoughts, and join the conversation. The future favors men who act.